Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Let's Talk Fantasy Football. I'm your host for tonight, Nick Walsh, and this is normally the part of the show where I would introduce my co-hosts, but due to some scheduling errors and then some technical errors, I'm the only one with you guys tonight. So I hope we're doing okay, and I apologize for doing the solo cast tonight, but we'll get through it, and hopefully the information is just as good and gets you ready for week 8. I'm going to be doing the week 8 preview. I know normally this comes out on Thursday morning. Like I said, we had some scheduling errors. This was supposed to get out Thursday morning. I'm recording it Thursday night after the Dolphins-Patriots game. So if you missed it, we put some of our picks for tonight's game up on Twitter. I hope you guys were able to find that. Again, we're at Let's Talk FF if you guys don't follow us. But I apologize that, this didn't get up at the correct time, and I assure you that next week we will be back in full force, getting podcasts up on Thursday morning, and hopefully with more people than just me. So with that being said, just to recap, I guess the Pats-Dolphins game, basically the Patriots stomped the Dolphins. They played a lot better. The Dolphins had played two very bad teams the past 2 weeks since they've had Dan Campbell as their head coach. So this was really their first test, and they did not pass. That being said, most of the Dolphins' fantasy performers didn't do too terribly. Tannehill didn't get you what you want. He ended up with about 8 fantasy points, I believe. But Landry had a decent PPR day. Rashard Matthews had a decent PPR day. And Lamar Miller got a touchdown and 5 receptions despite only getting about 38, I believe, yards total. So he got kind of bailed out in those ways. On the Patriots side of the ball, Gronk is really good. Brady's really good. Edelman's really good. Dion Lewis is really good. You guys should know that by now. If you don't, then maybe it's time to play fantasy basketball or something, because the football thing, you should be knowing these things. So anyway, we're going to get right into the week 8 games. This is going to be a little bit shorter of a preview than normal. I'm just kind of going to go through the plays that I like, the plays I don't like, how I think these games are going to play out. Unfortunately, we won't get the normal, witty banter, or maybe not so witty banter that you're used to expecting that you expect rather. Anyway, let's talk fantasy football. But I'll try and get you guys some good information, get you ready for week 8 so we can go out there and win some games. So on the bye this week, we've got the Buffalo Bills, the Jacksonville Jaguars, the Philadelphia Eagles, and the Washington Redskins. So this isn't really like last week where the teams involved in the buys had a huge amount of fantasy contributors, but there's enough that you could be feeling it depending on how your team's structured. You might have a little bit of those bye week woes. So I'll try and give you guys the best plays in terms of how to fill in those roster spots that you are missing. We're going to start with the Detroit Lions at the Kansas City Chiefs. I think both quarterbacks you can use in this game. The Kansas City pass defense has shown to be pretty subpar. Stafford's not afraid to sling it, and it appears that Calvin Johnson is back to being Calvin Johnson. So I like Stafford, and I like Alex Smith as a high floor guy who you can use against this mediocre Lions defense. Macklin should be back for this game. He's practicing in full. So that's obviously a huge boost for Alex Smith. In terms of running backs, I think Charkandrick West is worth the start. They're at home. They are a 4-point favorite. He looked very good this past week, despite a shaky first week as a starter. But I think if you own Charkandrick West, then you can probably roll him out there pretty comfortably. On the Detroit side of the ball, Theo Riddick is the only guy I have any sort of inclination to use, and that's only in PPR. As in terms of the lock plays, obviously Jeremy Macklin, he's back, he's healthy, you're playing him. Travis Kelce, I think people kind of give him a little bit too much crap for not being consistent, but the tight end position is inconsistent as it is, and Travis Kelce actually hasn't put up that bad of a floor this week, so I think he's an every week lock. And then Calvin, obviously, is an every week lock. Golden Tate, at this point, past week, he still got the targets. He had about 6 targets in that game, which Stafford only threw the ball about 26 times. So that's not a bad percentage. But he's a PPR guy. He doesn't get looks down the field. He's targeted very close to the line of scrimmage. And, while it's a very good matchup, you can probably do better in standard leagues. In PPR, I think he's probably worth it. And then the last guy I want to touch on in this game is Eric Ebron. He is legit. We have down-talked Ebron, particularly last year, because he was a rookie, and rookie tight ends don't do anything in the NFL. But this year, he has been very good. He came out 5 catches on 5 targets, 80-some-odd yards and a touchdown last week. That was his first week back healthy. And in the weeks that he was healthy before that, he was also performing at a pretty decent rate. So I'm on Ebron. I think he's a good play. And I think he's moving closer and closer to being an every week starter at the tight end position. That being said, I'm going to take the Chiefs in this game. So let's move on to Minnesota at Chicago. I don't think I'm on Teddy Bridgewater this week. Not that I've been on him much, but you would think with the Chicago defense being not very good, that maybe Teddy's a good start. I don't really see it because the Chicago pass defense is pretty bad, but their run defense is worse. And the Vikings, their plan of attack is pound the ball with Adrian Peterson when they can kind of control the pace of the game. So I like AP a lot. I'm not on Teddy. And conversely, on the other side of the ball, I think it's the same thing. This sizes up to me as a game where Chicago is going to look to run the ball heavily with Matt Forte. Cutler will get a little bit of stats. He'll it really depends on who gets the touchdowns. If Forte gets those rushing touchdowns, then it'll be a huge day for him. If Cutler gets passing touchdowns, then it'll be a decent day for him and probably a good day for Forte. But I like Forte a lot. I'm not really on Cutler. In terms of the tight ends, Bennett to me is a must play. Is completely touchdown dependent, and I really like that. It's you're throwing a dart with Kyle Rudolph. That may work out, but he's not going to get a huge amount of catches. He's not going to get a huge amount of yards. You're basically banking on him getting that touchdown. In terms of wide receivers, Stephon Diggs, he's legit. He's Teddy Bridgewater's #1 target right now, and I don't expect that to change during this game. I think if you're desperate, you could go to Mike Wallace, but it's not a play that I would really recommend. And I think Alshon is a very good play as well. Potentially Marcus Wilson, but again, you're really not trying to do that. And just to give you guys a frame of reference for the quarterbacks in this game, I think I'd rather use both quarterbacks from last game that we talked about. That's Stafford and Alex Smith than Cutler or Teddy Bridgewater. I'm going to take the Bears here just because they're at home. And yeah, basically just because they're at home. So anyway, let's move on to the next game on our schedule. We've got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at the Atlanta Falcons in the Dome. Matt Ryan loves the Dome. Matt Ryan's been a bit disappointing this year if you own him. I think he's a good start this week. Tampa Bay has a bad pass defense, and they're a heavy favorite to win. So I like Matt Ryan. I love Julio Jones. I love Devontae Freeman. Devontae Freeman he didn't get the touchdowns this past week, but man, that guy gets so many touches. He gets so many yards. He may finish this year as the RB1. So yeah, love those two. And I think in terms of the rest of the offense, probably one of Leonard Hankerson, Roddy White, and Jacob Tamme will have a good game. I don't want to try and figure out who that is. If you really are desperate, maybe you go with one of them, but I don't want to try and guess that production this week. So I'm not going to. On the Tampa Bay side of the ball, Jameis Winston has been a surprisingly high floor type guy. He hasn't gotten any less than 12 points in a game. He hasn't gotten any more than 21 points in a game, and he's only broken 20 once. So he's a high floor, low ceiling guy. Maybe if the rest of your team is very, very good, they're in good matchups, and you think you just need someone who's got that high floor, maybe Jameis is the play. I'm not really about it. I think at this point, Doug Martin's entrenched himself as a starter on your team, which is amazing for me to say. Kudos to you, Vinny, for sticking by Doug Martin. But I've never been a huge Doug Martin fan, but he's been very good this year. I don't think this is the best matchup for him, but are you going to bench him? I mean, probably not. Charles Sims has gotten close to playing consideration within the past couple weeks. I don't think I'm really on him this week. And then in the wide receiver core, you've got Mike Evans. He had that breakout week this past week. I think he's in your lineups. Vincent Jackson, you can still start, but this is something we know about Vincent Jackson. He's got that high ceiling and he's got that low floor, and he's not going to be consistent every week. And it's sort of the same for Evans, though I think Evans will be a bit more consistent. But this is how the Tampa Bay passing game works. It's not like you're going to get consistent production from both of them each week. So, you know, there are better options than Vincent Jackson, but if you need to play him, you need to play him. I'm going to take Atlanta in that one. I don't have the balls to pick an upset. All right, that was a sip of beer break. I feel like I haven't taken a breath through this entire podcast, but hopefully this isn't something that I have to get used to doing the solo casts. So anyway, we're going to move on to our next game. We have the New York Giants at the New Orleans Saints. This one's pretty interesting to me. I'm gonna trust Eli. I think he's had a couple rough weeks in a row. I know because I own him and I play him in my big cash league, the league that we all play in at Let's Talk Fantasy Football. So he's been a little rough, but I think this is a good matchup. The New Orleans defense is not very good, particularly that pass defense. The Giants backfield. We saw Orleans Darkwa get carries this past week. Who would have thunk it? Does that mean we should play him? No, absolutely not. This is a four-headed, disgusting backfield monster, and you shouldn't want anything to do with any of them. Predicting their production on a week-to-week basis is going to be hell, and maybe there's some guy in your league who likes the Giants, or maybe like Shane Vereen because he went to Cal or something like that. I don't know. If you can trade these guys for any sort of reasonable return, do it. I mean, not that Andre Williams would be on your team anymore. I mean, honestly, I'm fine with dropping any of them. There are going to be people who are going to be tempted to play Orleans Darkwa this week. I don't think it's a good play. But, you know, maybe it works out. Maybe it doesn't. I think it probably doesn't. In terms of the wide receivers, I think you can comfortably start both Odell Beckham and Ruben Randle. Odell Beckham's going to have Delvin Breaux on him, who's a pretty solid corner, but Odell Beckham is Odell Beckham, and he can beat solid corners. And then Ruben Randle is, you know, he's in a good matchup. I think Eli's going to throw for a lot of yards here, and I think you can roll him out there pretty comfortably as a wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3, or flex. Larry Donnell is a very much a desperation play that I don't want to make, just because, like Kyle Rudolph, he doesn't really get like those deep looks. He doesn't get targeted away from the line of scrimmage. So you're depending on a touchdown for him to pay off. You know, maybe he gets it this week. Maybe he doesn't. I think there are better plays. On the same side of the ball, I like Drew Brees. This is a matchup where their implied Vegas total is 26 points. I don't think they're necessarily going to get all of those points and yards on the ground. So the only other option really is Brees. I think he's probably a good play, and I like both Cooks and Snead. It's kind of been a situation this year where both of them don't really produce in the same week, but they're both getting pretty significant targets. They're both getting decent run, and despite the down weeks from Snead, I think I'm still on both of them as guys you probably should be playing unless you have some pretty serious wide receiver depth. I'm still not buying Ben Watson as legit at tight end, but I will say that I'd rather play Ben Watson than Larry Donnell in this game. I think Watson does get those looks down the field. He has the potential to break a big play, and he's also a red zone target for them. And then in the backfield, Ingram's a definite yes. Kyrie Robinson, if you look at his fantasy point totals, you would say yes, but he's, again, so touchdown dependent, and it seems like he's been getting him a lot. He just seems to vulture Ingram, which is extremely frustrating as both an Ingram owner and a guy who's been touting Ingram pretty heavily. But I'm still not comfortable playing Kyrie Robinson, and Spiller looked a little more involved the past game. He actually did get 6 catches, so that's nice to see. I think you can do it, but you don't really have to, probably, right? I mean, maybe you do, but I wouldn't unless you have. So here, I think I'm going. Ooh, this is a tough one. I actually didn't think about it beforehand. But you know what? Let's pick the upset. I haven't picked an upset yet. We're going to take the Giants for this one. So let's move. Oh, this is going to be super easy. We've got San Francisco at St. Louis. The only person I want to play in this game is Todd Gurley. You're going to play the St. Louis defense as well. But Todd Gurley is insanely good at his job, which is being an NFL running back. He's really, really good at it, and he's going to dominate the production for St. Louis. You're not trying to pinpoint down any of their pass catchers. And on the San Francisco side of the ball, I don't want to play anyone against this defense. I know some people are going to play Hyde just because that's the guy that they play. I don't think it's a good play. It'll work out if he gets in the end zone, but I don't like Carlos Hyde this week. I love Todd Gurley this week and probably most weeks, to be honest, because they just feed him the ball constantly. I'm going to take the Rams in this one. And then we're going to move on to Arizona at Cleveland. We just saw that Cleveland defense get gashed by Todd Gurley and the Rams offense. So I think Arizona, despite the fact that they're a pass first team, they like to chuck the ball around with Carson Palmer. I very much like Chris Johnson this week. I think he's a very solid play. I don't know if I'm willing to take the plunge with the other two Arizona running backs being Ellington and David Johnson, but I love Chris Johnson. I think Carson Palmer is still a play, but again, temper your expectations because I see Arizona just kind of getting up in this game and not really having to pass the ball a lot. It'll be one of those games where Carson maybe has 20, 25 pass attempts as opposed to the 30 to 35 you're looking for good fantasy production. That being said, maybe he gets a couple touchdowns, and I don't think you're really benching Carson Palmer against a bad defense. You're going to start Fitz, you're going to start John Brown, but again, temper those expectations because I don't really expect them to have to throw the ball around so much. And in a game where the passing volume is probably going to be less, I'm not looking towards Michael Floyd. On the Cleveland side of the ball, Travis Benjamin hasn't been producing as much in the past couple of weeks, but the thing is he's still getting significant targets. I don't like him this week just because he's going to match up with Patrick Peterson. Patrick Peterson has struggled against some bigger, more physical receivers, but he tends to shut down these small speed guys. So I like Peterson to shut down Benjamin. I think you're probably going to start Gary Barnidge in this game. Arizona, after several years of being terrible against the tight end, is actually very good against the tight end this year. But Barnidge at this point is an every week starter at tight end. I'm not going to tell you to bench him. And I like Duke Johnson in this game because I like running backs who catch passes. I think Duke Johnson is probably a lock for 3 or 4 catches at the very least, and I would project him to have some more than this. So in PPR leagues, I think you can safely roll out Duke Johnson as that sort of pass catching specialist. I'm going to choose Arizona for this game, and we're going to move on after I take a sip of my beer. Delicious. So anyway, we're going to go to Cincinnati at Pittsburgh. On the Bengals, I think this one's like very straightforward, and I don't think it needs too much reasoning out on my part. On the Bengals side, I like Dalton, I like AJ Green, I like Marvin Jones, I like Tyler Eifert, and I like Giovanni Bernard. Those are kind of the guys that you play for the Bengals, Jones being added in when it's a good passing matchup. And then on the Steelers side, it looks like Roethlisberger is going to be back. So I like Roethlisberger. I like Antonio Brown. I like Martavis Beyond. Either could be. I don't feel the need to play him. So, yeah, that really does it for me. I'm going to take Cincinnati to win this game because I want Vinny to be happy about it, I guess. Let's move on to San Diego at Baltimore. Hey, one of my friends is going to be at this game. He flew out from San Francisco to Baltimore to visit one of his friends. He's a Chargers fan. They're going to the game. Fun. Adam, if you're listening, enjoy the game. If you're not, still enjoy the game. You just really won't hear it. So anyway, on the San Diego side of the ball, again, this is one I think is pretty straightforward with San Diego. Rivers, you're playing. Keenan Allen you're playing. I like Stevie Johnson in a matchup where they're probably going to pass the ball a lot. I wrote down Gates in my notes, but I clearly meant Green because Gates is looking like he's going to miss this game again. If he does go, you can totally play Gates. But Ladarius Green is a very solid tight end play this week. And then Danny Woodhead, his numbers haven't played this garbage time. He's still a week-to-week starter for you, particularly in PPR leagues. On the Baltimore side, I like this as a Forsett game. This lines up to me as a game where Forsett could run for 130 yards, like 3 catches for another 30 yards, and maybe a touchdown or 2. I think it's a big week for Forsett. I'm going to be rolling him out in a lot of daily fantasy lineups, and I'm all about him this week. Not really about Flacco. I'm not really about Flacco often, but Steve Smith is a good start just because, he's the guy who catches passes there. And then I also like Crockett Gilmore this week. Before he went down with an injury, he was kind of working his way into the tight end discussion. I think he's back there now. I believe he had 53 yards receiving this past week on either 3 or 4 catches. I don't have the stat in front of me, but it's something like that. And I like it in this game where they're probably going to pass the ball, a decent amount. The Chargers don't have a very good defense. So I'm going to take the Ravens again just because I really think Forsett's going to carry them to the win. So let's move on then to Tennessee at Houston. This is an interesting one. It doesn't have an over-under yet in Vegas, which is something that I use pretty significantly in my research because I think it's a good place to start when you're looking at games. That being said, these are the 2 teams that both just got absolutely worked by the Dolphins in the past 2 weeks. They're facing off. Mariota's a game-time decision. If he goes, you still probably shouldn't play him. It's possible that he pays off, but I don't think he will. The Titans running backs, you probably haven't been playing them. I would continue to not playing them if you have to. Andrews is the guy you want to go to. McCluster got a lot of catches this past game, but this was really his first game being a significant contributor in the past game. I don't really trust that. So I like to. I think Houston's going to win this game, and Tennessee has a god-awful run defense. So I think Alfred Blue, he tends to not really produce unless it's the type of game where they're going to get up and he's going to get fed 20 to 25 carries. This feels like that kind of game to me. I'm comfortable rolling him out there as an RB2 this week. DeAndre Hopkins, yes, he had a down week. He still had 13 targets, I want to say, maybe 14. He's an every week play. Of course, you have to keep playing him. And then the guy who really did have a big week last week was Nate Washington, who I believe had like 30 fantasy points. Cecil Shorts is out again this week, and Nate Washington, once again, isn't the worst play that you could make. And that being said, I think Hoyer's also not the worst play that you could make. In the past 4 weeks, he has no less than 17 fantasy points, and Tennessee's defense isn't good. So, yeah, Hoyer's an option. Maybe if you've been riding like Blake Bortles or something like that, and looking for a bye week fill-in, that's weird to say that you're looking for a bye week fill-in for Blake Bortles. But hey, it's 2015 and Blake Bortles is a QB1 in fantasy. So if that's the case, maybe Hoyer's your guy this week. I think he's up there with the Staffords and the Alex Smiths of the world as the more viable streaming options. I'm going to take Houston in this one. Like I said, I think Alfred Blue gets out there and kind of runs the ball pretty well against this really, really just terrible Tennessee defense. Again, we're going to take a quick break for me to sip my beer. Thank you guys for bearing with me on that. We're going to get into the Jets at the Oakland Raiders, my beloved Oakland Raiders. This is tough. I think the Jets are extremely legit, and the way you can tell that is that they played the Patriots super tight, and then the Dolphins, who were a team that we were all like, oh, maybe the Dolphins are legit, they came out and just got rocked by the Patriots. So the Jets are very, very good. against this Oakland passing defense that kind of struggles. I think Fitz is a viable option. Marshall and Decker, you should be playing them every week. They're both viable plays again this week. I know there's the narrative of Oakland. You should start tight ends against Oakland. And besides Owen Daniels, it's really borne out this week that that is true. Don't do it this week. Don't start Jeff Cumberland because Changeli basically doesn't play a tight end in this offense. Kellen Davis and Jeff Cumberland, who are their two tight ends, are both only seeing about 30% of the team's snaps. You can't rely on that for production, even if it is the Oakland defense. So no matter what you hear about Oakland in the tight end, do not play Jeff Cumberland, please. In terms of the running backs, I think you're probably starting Ivory. It's not the best matchup for him, but running back's weird this year, and Ivory's been an RB1. You're playing him. And then on the other side of the ball, I think you're probably starting Murray for reasons similar to Ivory. I kind of like this. I mean, I'm okay with it just because Murray does catch passes, though he's been pretty awful at it the past couple of weeks. He's been bobbling a lot of passes and just dropping things and looking very shaky with that. But they're giving him the opportunities. The opportunity has gone down a little bit, but I think he's probably someone that you're starting unless you really have some solid running back depth, but temper those expectations a little bit. And similarly, you might have to start Amari Cooper, which, by the way, I'm going to go on a quick tangent. I said that Amari Cooper wasn't a great play this past week, and I got some flack from Vinny for that, and then, he went off and everything. I will say Cooper got most of his yards and his one touchdown from two plays. One of them was a deep play where the safety was supposed to have over the top coverage, and he actually did, and Cooper just went up and got the ball. Because my reasoning was he would be covered by Jason Verrett, who's a shutdown corner. So on that play, not Verrett's fault. They kind of schemed around him on that. And then the other play was a screen pass where Verrett, got blocked right off the bat. So just going to say, I think my reasoning was valid that other than that, he really didn't do too much. So I think my reasoning was valid that you shouldn't have started Amari Cooper. But if you did, it really worked out and good for you. I was ecstatic to see it as a Raider fan. I'm going to pick the Raiders, not because I think they're going to win, but because I want to, similar to most weeks. Moving on to Seattle at Dallas, we've got 3 games left, and then you've got your weekly fill of Walsh. So just bear with me for 3 more games. We'll get you guys the information and get you out of here. Seattle at Dallas. On the Dallas side, I think you can start waiting. Seattle has, similar to Oakland, been sort of a team where the production is funneled to the tight end, though for different reasons, really. Seattle, their cornerbacks are just very good. Their rush defense is very good. And they really, there's really not many other options than the tight end. So I like Wayden this week. I think he's a good start. And McFadden, we saw him have this kind of breakout week when we all thought it was going to be Kristen Michael, which was just hilarious. The spectacular troll job by the Dallas coaching staff. But McFadden, even if he doesn't get that workload, is the pass catching back. So if they're down late in the game, they're trying to come back. Yeah, McFadden's going to get some of that work. I think he's a viable start, particularly in PPR leagues. There are rumors that Dez is going to come back this week. I think if he does come back, if he does play, whether or not you're playing him is based completely on the other wide receivers you have on your team. Look at your wide receivers and ask, is it worth it to take this risk that Dez puts up 0 for me? Is the upside of my other guys not enough, basically? Because I don't think you need to play Dez. I think it's possible that he does well if he plays, but it's also possible that he's a decoy. It's also possible that Matt Castle sucks and he doesn't get the ball to him. So that's what I'm going to say about Dez. Look at the rest of your wide receivers very hard. If you can't make a decision, tweet at us. We'll answer you and, go from there. On the Seattle side of the ball, Marshawn is an obvious play here. The Dallas run defense isn't very good. Russell Wilson, I don't think is a necessary start. If you're still starting him every week, why? I don't think he should be. So I wouldn't really be starting him. And I don't really like Graham in this game either, but I think you're going to start him because if you drafted him, you're starting Jimmy Graham. He's been the definition of a boom or bust player this year, but you're probably rolling with it. I'm going to take Seattle in this game, and we're going to move on to the first Sunday night game after, again, another sip of beer. The only reason I keep saying that is I don't want these unexplained silences and you think the podcast has malfunctioned and your phone broke or whatever else. So anyway, Sunday night game, Green Bay at Denver. I have very, very little feel for how this game is going to go for a couple of reasons. Denver's defense is really, really good, first of all. And then second of all, we've got some running backs coming back potentially healthy, potentially not healthy, potentially going to get some workload, potentially not. And also, Green Bay's pass defense is really good, where they can be run on a little bit. They have an exceptional pass defense this year. So I'm having trouble really deciding who I like here, but I think you're probably starting all your regulars unless you have better options. And by that I mean the Demarius Thomas, Emmanuel Sanders, Randall Cobb, James Jones, obviously Aaron Rodgers. I think you're starting all these guys. And then besides that, and it's not because you really want to, but just because that's the way your team's structured. Besides that, Eddie Lacy is he back? I don't know. If you think you want to take the risk on it, go for it. CJ Anderson, is he going to be thing? Probably not. Maybe he is. Ronnie Hillman, I don't know. So I'm having a lot of trouble with that. I don't want to give you guys the wrong advice, so I'm going to leave it at basically, start your regulars and be pretty cautious with the other guys. That being said, I'm going to pick Green Bay. I think they're the better team, even with that tough Denver defense and even with Denver at home. All right, last game, Indianapolis at Carolina. This one is a lot more one-sided than we thought it was going to be going into the year. I think the only play I really like on the Colts is Dante Moncrief. I expect Josh Norman, who's the shutdown number one corner for Carolina, to be shadowing T.Y. Hilton. He's another one of those guys who's a bit smaller and does better against these smaller, quick-type receivers. So I don't expect T.Y. to do well. I don't really have a problem playing him, but again, temper your expectations. Andrew Luck, I don't like at all in this game. And Frank Gore, you can play him, but there's other guys out. Like, for example, in one league, I think I took him out for Gio Bernard this week. Plays like that, I think are a little bit safer and also have a little bit more upside. On the Carolina side, and also, sorry, to go back to the Colts for 1 second, I like Moncrief, but the rest of the Carolina secondary is good as well. So don't expect the world from Moncrief either. On the Carolina side, love Cam, love Jonathan Stewart despite his lack of touchdowns, and I love Greg Olsen this week. I'm not really about playing that wide receiver game with them because it's tough to guess where the production is going to go, if anywhere, but Ted Ginn's probably your best play. I don't think Vontae Davis is going to shadow anyone. I think he's just going to play his side. So Ted Ginn's probably the best play out of him. I don't really want to play anyone, but Cam is an elite play. Stewart's a very good play, and Olsen is also an elite play. I'm going to take Carolina for that one, and that'll do it for the Week 8 preview. Again, I apologize for this getting up late. I apologize for it just being me. I hope you guys still enjoyed it. I hope it went well, and I hope you guys got some good information. If you have any questions for us, tweet at us at LTFF. Sorry, at Let's Talk FF. Wow, that was dumb. And then also, if you guys feel like getting into some daily fantasy this weekend, sign up at owntheplay.com. I play there, Shrek plays there, Vinny plays there. So you guys can sign up and beat us and feel good about yourselves. But also, if you use the promo code LTFF when you're depositing, you will get a free $25 to play around with. It's a great site. I really like their pricing. I really like their games, and I think you guys will too. So with that being said, good luck in all your matchups this week. And we'll see you guys next week for the week 8 review and, you know, some more multi-person podcasts and less of this one-person stuff. So for Nick Walsh, this has been Let's Talk Fantasy Football, and have a nice day.